Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Goaltending, where your why is bigger than your excuses. And I truly mean that. Today is one of those why bigger than the excuses moments. I'm recording while on vacation with the family. I didn't have time to get it done before we left for travel. And so this one in a completely different location. You're probably going to hear some background noise today with the kids and the place that we're staying at. I'll let them pop out and say hello real quick to the audience. Hi to Aaliyah and Jaden.
Hi.
And so they'll be in the background a little bit. You all may hear some noise. But today is a really, really important topic. All right. Thank you all. Y'all can go play now. Right.
Bye-bye. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good rest of your day.
Today's a really important topic, though. And it was inspired by one of my coaching clients. We were talking about nutrition in general, but talking about being significantly under the amount of calories that we set for them for the day, right? And so we're going to talk about basal metabolic rate, calorie intake, things like that fuel performance so that you understand your nutrition a little bit better. The reason that a lot of diets do or don't work, some of the goods and bads of those things. So we're going to get into all of it. I want to help you understand your nutrition. And before we do that, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for tuning in, allowing me to be a part of your journey. Love doing this, love being a part of it. So it's not working. It's not something that, feels bad whenever I'm out on vacation to take some time and record, because it means a lot to be able to share positive messages, things that can help people and be a part of your journey. So truly thank you. It means a lot. Find some takeaways today, because this one's going to be straight knowledge, things that are going to help you with your nutrition, understanding macros a little bit better, understanding caloric deficits and diets, the way those things work. So first, let's start with basal metabolic rate, also known as BMR. And if you ever work with a nutrition coach, a registered dietitian, just setting macros in general, the baseline for setting your calories is based off of what your basal metabolic rate should be. And so basal metabolic rate has some different factors and things that can impact this. So, your sex, gender, age, weight, height, these are things that can impact your basal metabolic rate. But ultimately, there are some general things that you can do to get a baseline. But what basal metabolic rate actually is, it's the amount of calories basically that your body needs to be able to perform basic life functions. Like, imagine you are in a coma laying in bed. Your body's going to burn this amount of calories, needing absolutely no energy expenditure. And you need that amount of calories just to support your breathing, your blood circulation, your cell repair ability. Right? So that basal metabolic rate is those calories that you just need to be alive. Absolutely not moving or expending any energy, right? And so when you're thinking about the amount of calories that you need for a day, that's what I need to lay in bed all day, the amount of calories that I need. And so if I am getting less than that, which a lot of people do, whenever they think that they're trying to do something to lose weight, or they're getting on a fad diet or doing something like that, they end up getting less calories than their basal metabolic rate. And that can be really dangerous. But here's the thing, and the problem that a lot of people don't see. When you go at that significant of a caloric deficit, a lot of times you're going to see some weight loss like right away. Your body's going to eat fat initially, and you're going to see some quick weight loss. And that's going to get you hooked. You're going to be like, this is what works. I know that I can lose weight this way. But when you try to go with an extreme deficit like that for too long, you're going to start with burning fat. But then what is your body going to go to next? Muscle. Your body's going to start eating your lean muscle mass as its source of energy, because it's not getting enough calories. So your body gets like scared. It goes into energy conservation mode, which makes it harder to lose weight. And it can slow down your metabolism. You can experience fatigue, have hormone imbalance, weakened immunity, and ultimately have nutrient deficiencies. A lot of things that can impact you in negative ways. And so when we're thinking about that, right, We go at that for a long time. Why does it impact our metabolism? The reason is because the more muscle mass that we carry, the more calories our body is able to burn at rest. Having more lean muscle mass increases our basal metabolic rate, the amount that we would burn absolutely no matter what, regardless of what energy we're expending, right? So if you're laying in the bed all day, if you have more muscle mass, your body needs more calories. It's going to burn more calories naturally. So when you go on a fad diet, when you do something that's putting you at a significant caloric deficit below your basal metabolic rate, you lose weight, but it's initially fat and then it's eating your muscle, which is losing weight, but it's slowing down your metabolism. And so here's what happens. You end up on a roller coaster, right? So we in the springtime, early summer, we're like, let's ramp up for our summer body. So we're going to go on this fad diet. We lose a bunch of weight, so we're looking good for summer. And then we decide, all right, we reached that goal. Now we're going to enjoy ourselves. We're going to cut loose. We're going to get back to the old habits, throwing in the drinking, eating bad, not taking care of ourselves again, because we reached that goal. And so we lose focus. But then after summer ends, and then we're like, okay, now holidays in the fall and winter, we let ourselves go. We pack on a bunch more fat, but not muscle. So our metabolism is slower now. We're going to see that we're gaining weight quicker. Now, everything that we lost has added back on. When it comes around time to spring, summer again, and we're ready to ramp back up, we notice that it's a little bit harder to lose weight now. It's not coming off as fast, especially the more cycles of this that we do, the more times we do that roller coaster, because every single time you're starting with less lean muscle mass than you had before. You're slowing down your metabolism every time. And then you wonder why, after several years of doing this, you start to hit these plateaus and start to feel like no matter what you do, we're not losing weight. We're struggling. We're having a hard time. And it's because of this negative pattern that we've created for ourselves over the long term. Now, I want you to understand that, but don't think that it can't be reversed, right? We can start doing the right things. We can start to turn it around, but what it requires is to gain an understanding of what your basal metabolic rate is, like what the baseline calories that you need. When you start to fuel your body with enough calories to function, it's going to take time and consistency, especially the longer that you've been off of having the right amount of calories and nutrients for your body, right? The longer it's been off, the longer it's going to take to get things back on track. And so when you start to do things the right way, let's say 4-6 weeks, you don't see a significant return like you used to when you did those huge caloric deficits. And so you're like, this isn't worth my time. You go back to what you were doing. You don't see results, right? Now, if you stick to it, your body will start to adjust, right? We've had this hormonal imbalance and this fatigue and this weakened immunity, this nutrient deficiency for so long. Like our body feels like all of those things are normal now at this point. I talked about it with Dan Otterson a little bit when he was on the podcast. Going to the caloric deficit for so long that it can impact your testosterone and other things in your body and the way that you feel, but you start to think that it's normal. Okay, and it's not. And when you've been on that track for a long time, it's going to take longer to get things back on track. So first, I want to encourage you, don't be afraid to get the things on track. Like start taking care of yourself the right way. And so what that is, we get the macros set and then we stick to those. We make sure that we're getting the right amount of calories, the right amount of protein for our body and for our goals. And then carbs and fats are awesome, but if we're hitting our calorie intake and we're getting enough protein, the carbs and fats can fluctuate a little bit. Like they're still within reason minimums that we want to have and stuff like that. But ultimately, that's where we want to get to, is understanding what the basal metabolic rate is. Plus, on top of that, what level of activity do we have? You know, how much are we exercising? How active are we throughout the day? Do we have an active job or an office type job where we're at a desk all day? Those things impact the amount of calories you need too. So think about all of that, put all of it together, then you start to see those results. Now let's talk about some of those diets that you've done before, right? So we've got things like paleo and keto and really name your diet, right? They are all set around the same thing. They all put you at a caloric deficit. And by being at a deficit, you lose weight. But the problem is a lot of times these programs put you at that caloric deficit at the sacrifice of one of your three primary macronutrients, your protein, carbs, or your fats. And by putting you at a significant deficit on one of those macronutrients, your body is deficient at something. So you lose weight up front because you're at that caloric deficit. So your body starts eating the fat and then it starts eating the muscle. So you lose weight, but it's not long-term sustainable because you're at a deficiency for a macronutrient. That's the reason when people talk macros and people get so big on macros, it's because it is the most effective and beneficial way to actually lose the weight or to gain muscle or to take care of your body because you're making sure you're getting enough calories plus a right appropriate balance of macronutrients for your body and your goal, right? And then as you get used to that, think of it like a science experiment, right? Whenever we're testing a hypothesis, we change one variable at a time. That way you can figure out what it is that works and is effective. So the goal first is to just get a baseline of what your calories need to be, like what level of macronutrients you have for a baseline. And if you stick to that for 6 weeks, you can start to see how is my body responding to this? And from there, you can change a variable, right? You can either add or subtract from a macronutrient or add or subtract from the amount of calories that you have based on how your body's responding. But I don't recommend doing any of that if you don't have the understanding of how to do it. That's the reason it's important to work with a nutrition coach, a registered dietitian, somebody who's going to have a good foundation and understanding of how to make those adjustments incrementally to help you see the results long term. So I just thought this was an extremely important topic to bring up, to understand the reason that those diets work short term but are not sustainable, to understand how important it is to know that you don't want to be going at this significant deficit to your basal metabolic rate. And it happens so frequently. In fact, when I was talking to my coaching client, they were like, I'm typically 600 to 700 calories below what my calories are set at. And those calories are already set at a deficit, right? And so if we're getting that significant deficit below our basal metabolic rate, we might see some results, but it's at a sacrifice. It's not at a long-term sustainable place. And so when you're first getting on macros, a lot of times you're going to feel like it's too much food, because when you're eating healthier food, when you're eating cleaner, you can eat more food for the amount of calories you have. So let's say I go to McDonald's and I get burger and fries, I can get a couple thousand calories real quick with a little bit of greasy food. But when I'm eating clean food and I'm having some chicken breast and vegetables and, sweet potatoes and putting together a good baseline of healthy fats, carbs, and proteins, putting these together, I can have a whole lot more for the amount of calories that I have. So I feel full throughout the day. And ultimately, it's harder to eat the amount of calories that I need, right? And so the next thing is it's really important to have a timeline throughout the day. So let's say I need about 2,600 calories a day for my typical macro setup right now. And so with having 2,600 calories a day and needing 190 grams of protein, that's a pretty good amount of protein, especially when you're, typically aiming for 25 to 40 grams of protein, somewhere in there, to get muscle protein synthesis at each meal. And so we're aiming for 25 to 40 grams of protein per meal. How many meals does that mean I need to have a day? 40, 80, 120, 160 plus some. So I need to be having at least 4 meals with 40 grams of protein plus a snack with the rest of the protein that I need for the day. So I'm eating at least 5 times a day. And to make sure I'm getting good digestive rest, I need to think about having at least 2 to 3 hours between each of those meals. So not eating early in the morning is not a great idea, because that means I'm going to have to squeeze all of my protein that I need for the day into a shorter window. And so by having a longer fast period and trying to wait and stretch it to later in the day, I'm working on getting like a whole bunch of protein into a short window. And so I'm sure we'll talk about fasting like in another episode. I'm not going to get into fasting as much today. I just want to get into understanding, like, when you do have that amount of protein, it is difficult to get if you're not intentional. So it's really important that you make a plan, like set a timeline for the times you want to eat throughout the day. Try to give yourself about 2 to 3 hours of digestive rest between each of those meals, and that you're getting enough to hit your macronutrients and your calories for the day. Super important topic. Just wanted to bring it up and share that with you all. I know it was extremely helpful for my coaching clients. And so wanted to get that message out there to give you something to think about in your journey. If you need help with any of that, don't hesitate to reach out to me, drop a comment, throw your questions in on nutrition. If it's something that I don't know, I'll find the answer. I know some great other great nutrition coaches and registered dietitians, and love doing research on the topic, because I love learning more and more about how we can take better care of our bodies. So thank you all so much for tuning in, allowing me to be a part of your journey, joining me on my vacation here. Really awesome to see it. Make sure you all go like, subscribe, comment with your thoughts and questions to join the conversation, and let's grow.